Hey guys, Hamsterwheel here with a new video, and as you might have seen from my post on the community tab, I'm checking out a private server called Vanilla Plus, and today I want to share with you guys what I think of the server so far. Now, a bit of a disclaimer, as of right now I'm only level 45, so I still have a lot of stuff to discover myself. However, I noticed there's a bunch of people who are really interested in the server, so in this video I'll try to inform you guys a bit better on how the server is and what the upsides but also the downsides are of playing here. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, what is Vanilla Plus? Well, it's a private server that is running on a vanilla core, but they have done some serious changes to rebalance the game. For instance, the talent trees have been reworked completely, and specs like Balance Druid, Elemental Shaman and Retribution Paladin, which have always been lacking in vanilla, are now buffed drastically to the point where they are not just viable, but also pretty competitive, so I've heard. They also increased the experience rates. You get 2 times experience for killing mobs, 3 times experience for completing quests, and killing elite mobs and completing group quests gives you even more experience. I'm not sure exactly how much, but I think it's around something to 5 to 7 times XP rate, which makes completing things like dungeon quests all the more desirable. Another really cool thing is that they change a lot of the items in game. For instance, the dungeon set is something that for most classes is kinda terrible, especially for casters since it doesn't provide you any secondary stats like spell hit or spell damage. However, in Vanilla Plus, these items have been completely reworked, so it's actually worth farming these. Of course, there's a lot more changes than this, but for now let's focus on the leveling. So when I started my little Tauren Druid, I noticed some very cool changes right from the beginning. My War Stomp, for instance, was now an instant cast, and it turns out the ratios here on Vanilla Plus have been reworked, so that's really cool. Also, Taurens get a racial passive called Pulverize, which increases your skill with fists, maces and two-handed maces by 5. And on top of it all, I have Plains Running. Now, fun fact, Plains Running was actually in the beta of Vanilla, but it was scrapped before it was released. Here, however, it's back and it made leveling quite smooth as I had an increased speed buff right from the get-go. Not too long after, I was visited by a shaman called Ilulin, which I'm probably butchering her name, but there you go, who gave me some runecloth bags, and it also allowed me to see someone in endgame gear. His shaman is elemental spec'd, and it was amazing to see that Vanilla Plus has multiple tier sets for each spec, as evident by the stats on his gear. Now, another thing worth noting is that this server has also embraced hardcore leveling, which of course is heavily inspired by the hardcore leveling mode that Cargo started with. You get a passive 5% damage increase and a 5% damage reduction, and of course this buff is removed as soon as you die. Now, when I hit level 10, I could check out the talents in-game, and it was amazing to see all the really cool changes for druids. But despite the massive changes to the balance tree, I did decide to level as Feral, since Cat Druid, especially from the early levels, is just too damn good. As I made my way to Thunderbluff while doing the ever so monotonous Spirit Wolf quest, I couldn't help but notice that while I was doing the same content for the 30th time or so, I was genuinely entertained. The custom talents made me look forward to each level, the hardcore mode made things a lot more exciting, and above all, there was a ton of really cool custom stuff to look forward to at max level. Another thing I noticed was how intellect has also been changed here, since I saw that my spells were doing more damage than the tooltip showed. But that was weird, because I didn't have any spell damage gear. It turns out every 3 intellect gives you 1 spell damage and healing, which is pretty darn huge if you ask me, because if you have 300 intellect as a level 60, that means you get a free 100 spell damage just from that stat alone. Eventually I got to level 20 and unlocked cat form. From there on out I was able to pick up a lot of speed with how fast I could level. Another thing I noticed was that you get a lot of rest experience while being logged out at an inn. I think it was only 12 hours between me logging off and logging back in again, and I found myself having give or take an entire level worth of rested experience, which definitely speeds up the leveling even more. A little later down the line, and I, as a Feral Druid, got a really cool talent called Leap, which makes you, well, leap forward for a nice distance, and I used this to pull off some pretty cool parkour tricks. Parkour! Then in my late 30s, a hunter called Jocelyn did me a huge favor and helped me out with the Elite Mastery quest in Stranglethorn Vale, and since they were group quests, they gave me a huge chunk of experience. Now, when I dinged level 40, I was a little worried. It did mean that it was hard keeping up my spells, and I found myself being pretty low on gold most of the time. And at level 40, I had nowhere near the amount of money I needed to buy my riding skill and my mount. Or so I thought, because it turns out that apprentice riding here is absolutely free, and you only need to put down money for the actual mount. So I guess that's a nice way to counter the fact that you level a lot faster and that you don't spend as much time obtaining gold. And well, right now, as I said, I'm level 45, and after about 30-ish hours of playing here, I can tell you that I'm still quite entertained and enjoying my grind from 1 to 60. Now, during this video, you might have seen that I barely ever bumped into another player, and that's because this server right now has a problem, and that is its population. On average, the server has about 150 people playing, with about 200 or more on peak. And yes, that is very low, but here's the thing. The project itself is really amazing, and if no one ever tries this out because of low population, that population will always stay that low. It's a vicious cycle that I'm trying to break. I want people to be aware of the fact that right now there are only a handful of raiding guilds here, and that it's really hard to find a dungeon group while leveling. But if no one ever joins the server to be part of the solution, then this will never change. I'd also like to give a shout out to YouTuber Bilaterial Newt, who posted this on my video regarding the talent trees of Vanilla Plus. He's an experienced player on the server, and he mentions a lot of other really cool stuff, like fixed abuses, the fact that bosses drop tier 1 tokens instead of just 1 or 2 specific tier items, dungeons like Dire Maw and Lower Blackrock Spire are redesigned to be raid groups, there's a new world boss in Silithus, and a whole lot more. There's of course even more cool features that Vanilla Plus has introduced to this server, but I think you guys get the idea of how much the staff has changed the world of Vanilla World of Warcraft, and I want to leave the rest for you guys to discover yourself. So, if I sparked your curiosity, then check out the link in the video description to get started. All you need to do is make an account, download their launcher, let that install the game for you, and you can hop right in and join the fun. Vanilla Plus, as of right now, looks like a really great passion project with a ton of custom content and changes. And while yes, it suffers from low population, I think we're in a position where we can change that and make the server feel a lot more alive. For now, I'll be continuing my journey to level 60 and of course become a boomkin and free up some time to do a raid here and there, as I'm super stoked to see how well balanced druids perform here on this server. So that's it for now, and before I forget, I just want to thank each and every one of you for supporting my channel. Whether it's through watching the videos, subscribing and or liking, I really appreciate all the feedback and support you guys have given me. It's been a rough year with the pandemic that is still running rampant, so giving you guys some form of entertainment to take your mind off of all the craziness that goes on in this world is an honor and a privilege. And despite everything, I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a happy new year. I'm Hamsterwheel, and I will see you in 2022.